engaging. I'm excited.
Right.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
excited.
yes.
Brandis, you got us loaded.
I'm getting your window set here, and let me lock this in.
Yeah, get our timer going.
Yes, indeed. All right, names are up.
How long are we on?
How long before it starts up?
How long are we on?
Oh, about an hour.
An hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We started out, it's anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour, but it's always closer to the hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once you get into a good conversation.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me.
Fine with me.
All right, I'm going with the countdown is at 1:30.
Okay.
Minute 30.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
I'm professional.
Well, she had to tell me because we don't, when she was on with us that episode we did, we could see it, but this countdown clock is over on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Right. And see, last time when we did Doc Esther, I forgot to hit the record button.
Did you hit it now?
Yeah, I got it. We're recording. So we did that whole segment, and the only place it was seen was on Facebook.
Oh wow.
But it had 890 views, so that was cool.
That's good. That's good.
All right, 1 minute.
Right. So I'm gonna redo it with him. Just me and him. Just gonna do it on a Zoom, and then we'll put it up on the podcast repository.
Mm-hmm. This is nice.
Well, yeah, you've been making your rounds.
Yes, yeah. I've been a few places on the internet.
I am loving it.
I've been a few places. Got a few more places to go.
I
Sound wonderful.
I like it.
Sound wonderful.
I'm like, we in line. Take a number.
I know.
All right, you got 20 seconds, and you got people already there. Look at that. They love y'all.
They love our guests too.
Yes, they do.
That's good stuff.
All right, and you're live.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Right.
Well, hello, audience. We
Right.
got a special guest for you. We got a treat.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is episode 4 of our podcast, Things My Mother Never Told Me. We got a special guest on with us today, Reverend Dr. April Y.M. Hearn, and my lovely wife, Tynia, is going to introduce her.
All right, then. Let me introduce her. We got Reverend Dr. April Y.M. Hearn. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. That's Psalms 34:1. Serves as the theme for the life and service of Dr. April Hearn. I tell you, she is a sought-after preacher, keynote speaker, and conference presenter for people of all ages and backgrounds. Dr. April, or Reverend A, as she's lovingly referred to by the congregation of New Prospect, was licensed in 2000 in Little Rock, Arkansas, and later ordained to the gospel ministry at New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan. And by her beloved pastor, the late Reverend Dr. Wilma R. Johnson, in 2009. She has earned a BS degree in secondary education, specializing in biology and general science from Grambling State University in Grambling, Louisiana, a master's in the art of teaching from Marygrove College, and a master of divinity from the ecumenical
Right.
theological seminary. You know I practiced that, right?
Yeah. I understand.
Oh, the Lord has opened so many doors for Dr. April to enter in this ministry full-time in New Prospect. She faithfully served under the leadership of, again, our Reverend Dr. Wilma R. Johnson for 15 years. She functioned as the pastor of the children and youth administration assistant to Pastor Johnson and coordinator of ministry events and community projects. Full-time member of the pastoral staff at New Prospect.
Yeah.
In June of 2019, Dr. April Hearn was conferred the Doctor of Ministry degree from Ecumenical Theological Seminary
Yes.
Her dissertation was titled Behind the Veil, Domestic Abuse in Christian Homes. Dr. April's desire is to empower the Christian community with the tools necessary to engage in what she calls dangerously brave conversations on the topic of domestic abuse, intimate partner violence. A strong advocate for speaking words of affirmation to one's own spirit, she can often be heard declaring, "I'm a thermostat, not a thermometer." All right then. How about that?
Welcome,
I
Reverend.
like
How you
that.
doing?
Thank you. Good to see you tonight. Good to see you.
You too. You
Yeah,
too.
I'm impressed.
Look, we were just talking before we started for the people in the audience, and you've been busy.
I have. I've been busy lately. I'm blessed that COVID doesn't stop us from being able to engage with one another virtually. So I've done a few virtual interviews and conversations about the dissertation, in addition to participating in some women events virtually. And there are a few more events for women that are coming up later on this month. And I'm looking forward to the doors that the Lord is opening.
All right.
I was just on a call on Monday with her name is Muriel, and she is the host of what is called an empowerment hour. She's an empowerment specialist, and she lives in Australia. And so there were women from across the globe who were having conversations about the pandemic of abuse that is happening on every continent where there are human beings.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that you can have dialogue with women in other places and know that we're all experiencing or have experienced the same things. And so that connects us as human beings. That connects us knowing that we're having this human experience, and it's a conversation that needs to take place in every place where there are human beings. This conversation needs to take place.
Yes.
I agree. And the event that's coming up is next week, right? You can go ahead and tell them about it if you want to.
Okay, next week, beginning on the 12th, you can still go online. If you check out Donna Hicks Izard on Facebook, or if you click on Unstoppable Black Woman, the Unstoppable Black Woman, you type that in. Donna Hicks Izard is she is a motivational guru.
Okay.
And she is all about empowering her Black sisters to embrace our B's, that we are bold, we are beautiful, we are brilliant.
Yes.
And she created the Unstoppable Black Woman movement. And so on next week, she invited myself along with, I believe there are 5 other women who are presenting via Zoom.
All
and
right.
you can go online to Unstoppable Black Woman Movement, or you can go online and click on or type in Donna Hicks Izard, and it should come up if you do it through Facebook, and you're able to go on and register. It's still time to register, and it's open to all of our Unstoppable Black sisters. You're going to learn about how to be unstoppable and win. It's about winning. So winning in business, winning in life, winning in love, winning in relationships, winning with God. And so all of those various topics are going to be taught by various speakers. And so we're inviting people to come on, log on, come with us on this journey of being unstoppable. And she intentionally chose women who have gone through something.
Yes.
Who have survived something, and not just survived it, but you've thrived in your survival. You've become more than a conqueror. So she's selected women like myself who've been through a whole lot of stuff. And so we went through our bag of stuff and formulated these messages about winning for the Unstoppable Black Woman movement.
I like that word, unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Yes, unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Black women.
Y'all,
all right.
y'all trying to take over the world right now.
You haven't heard? You haven't heard?
Thank you.
Heard.
That's why they're trying to stop us.
You haven't heard?
Who would have thought?
Right. And so,
Right.
Blame Jesus.
Right. So
Right.
today we're going to talk about your doctoral thesis to domestic abuse. Now, is it in a Christian church or Christian home?
In the Christian home.
Christian home. Okay.
Mhm.
In the Christian home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was the focus.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why I wrote that. And so you just said something I was going to say for later on, but because you brought it up now, you said you've been through some stuff.
Yes.
And so knowing that you're an ordained minister, reverend, now you're a doctor,
Mhm.
and so there's a song that you usually sing called Change My Name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was thinking that, when you sing that song, I look at how that song mirrors your journey.
Yes.
Because we can say that your name was Victim.
Yes.
And now your name is Victor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why I said what I wanted, because I wanted to roll that.
That song is a Negro spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the women, female preachers, pastors, who I admire and who I've followed, is the Reverend Dr. Claudette A. Copeland, out of San Antonio, Texas. And many years ago, Dr. Copeland released a CD. I love to hear her sing. Her voice it penetrates the soul. Many years ago, she released a CD, and on that CD she sings "Told Jesus Change My Name."
Amen. Mm-hmm.
And the words are, "Told Jesus be all right, change my name." And he told me, "Mother won't know you, child, if I change your name." He told me, "Friends will turn their backs on you if I change your name." But then the person then responds, "But I told Jesus,
Yes,
be all right."
Be
That's
all right.
Be
Yes.
all right.
And I sing that song because people tend to see the presentation of the preacher. They see the presentation of the preacher. They see the strength of the vessel, and they don't know what's behind the veil.
Yeah.
They don't know the journey. They don't know the struggle. They don't know how much tenacity it takes. They aren't aware of the tears that you cried by yourself, because there are times when family won't know you.
Right.
There are times when friends will turn their backs on you. There are times when you will cry sometimes.
Yes.
But you have to remember what you told Jesus.
Hello. There you go.
You told Jesus,
yes,
be all right.
Yeah.
If you change my name. So that song has been, ever since I heard her sing it, that song has been my personal theme song. I tend to sing it before I preach. I sang it for years before I would preach. I sing it at home, and I can never sing it without there being tears, without there being some type of emotional response from me, because no one knows better than I and God what it took and what it takes to stand behind that sacred desk. No one knows the journey. You read the bio, and the bio sounds so good.
Yes,
it sounds so good.
Say, look at Reverend, she's doing the thing.
Like, oh my goodness, it sounds so good. You
Look,
just went from this to that, then this and that.
I know.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
And no one knows the scars. No one knows the shattered dreams. No one knows how you had to sift through the rubble of your existence and find those gems that only God can work with. I promised myself I wasn't gonna preach tonight, but I just, no one understands. No one understands better than you and God, and that's true for every individual.
Everyone knows your story. That's right.
No one knows your story. When we step out into the world sees what we present, the person that we've put together before we step out the door. But no one knows better than that individual in God all that it took
Yes.
just to step out the door.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
And so while our bios sound real good,
right.
God knows and April knows the
Yeah.
journey that it took to put all that on paper.
Ooh.
And that's why they sound so good.
That's what it's,
You-
well, the word says he makes all things work.
right. That's
The
right.
Lord will make all things work.
They all things
Yes,
work.
yes,
Not good.
yes.
It's
Yeah.
gotta, yeah, when it sounds good, that means you done been through some stuff
Yeah.
to get to that good. So,
Yeah.
well, you know, before I get into the meat of the thing, excuse me, because you went to a HBCU?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Grambling State University,
Right.
the
And
place
so-
where everybody is somebody.
That's right. 'Cause, you know, that's one of the things that we want to stress to the folks that are listening, especially the young folks out there, because, you know, you didn't go to high school in Detroit, right? You went down.
No. I'm a product of Detroit Public Schools.
Okay,
Yeah.
come on.
I'm a graduate of Osborne High School.
Okay.
When I was in school, there were 3 schools within the city that had college prep tracks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, outside of Renaissance and Cass Technical High School, there were 3 other schools in the city that had college prep tracks.
Right.
And Osborne was one of them.
Okay.
And it was called the Omega program. And so I'm a graduate of Osborne High School on the east side of Detroit. I'm an East Sider.
Yeah.
Even
Right
though I always say that I'm a Southern woman with roots in the city, or I'm a city girl with Southern roots.
Right.
They go back and forth because my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, had me from the time I was 6 months until I was 4.5. And then my parents brought me to Michigan. But every Christmas, every Easter, every summer, I was back in Mississippi with my grandparents and my family. So when it was time for me to graduate from high school, I couldn't wait to go back home.
Okay.
I was leaving the city and I was never coming back.
Ooh.
I was when I say never, I was never coming back, because the South is home to me.
Okay.
That's where my family is from, and I loved the South. And so when plus my mom is a graduate of an HBCU. She went to Alcorn State University. And so my mom said to me when it was time to pick a school that her money would only pay for an HBCU.
That's right.
So I already had family at Graham. And so when it was time to graduate, I graduated in June, and July I was in Mississippi.
Good. All right.
I was gone.
And I brought that up because I think it's really important that these young folks know that you can be DPS.
Yes, you can.
You can go to HBCU.
Yes, you can.
And you can still do great things.
Yes.
You know,
and I would even say to the young people who may be watching, there are stellar HBCUs. There is no experience. I don't care where you go.
Right.
There is no experience like the experience you will have on a historically Black college or university campus, because you see you and you're taught by those who look like you. The majority of your instructors will look like you, and they are vested. They are vested in your success, and in many regards, they are harder on you than anything you will experience at any other university, because to them, you represent them.
Yes.
When you go out into the world, you represent them. I have to share this. At Graham, it was a school that was founded for the development of educators. And so it began as a school a college that only produced teachers. And so that was Grambling's claim to fame. A lot of people think it's football, but it's not football. It is one of the best schools to attend if you want to learn how to become an educator. It's one of the best schools to attend, to the point where you couldn't take your upper level courses unless you passed certain parts of the National Teachers Examination. Because Grambling's claim to fame was, when you left Grambling, you could go anywhere and teach, because you'd already passed the National Teachers Examination. You were already certified to teach. And so when I left Grambling and graduated in December. I had a job January 3rd.
All right.
because I was already nationally certified.
Beautiful.
So
That's
I
good.
would say to young people who look into your HBCUs, look into Howard, look into Hampton, look into Grambling, look into Xavier. You know, they're our rivals, but I'll even say look into Southern.
Give them a shout out.
Look into Southern, you know, look into FAMU, no, Alabama State. Look at your HBCUs.
Yeah.
You know, look at Tuskegee.
Yes.
Some of the most phenomenal people in these United States have attended historically Black colleges and universities, and I'm proud to be one of them.
Amen.
Amen.
All right.
All right. So now that leads us into, because I got something for you later too. But
Okay.
So let's get down to the business at hand.
Yes.
You did some serious studying about this domestic violence thing in the Christian home. And we had the honor of attending some of your workshops, and then the defense of your thesis. We went to all that, and it was beautiful. So, come on, tell us what you got, because I know it had to be hard to even deal with stuff like that.
It was. I knew when it was time for me to pursue my doctorate of ministry, I already knew what I wanted to study. When you decide to pursue a doctor of ministry degree, it is a practical degree where you are working on an issue. You're working to address a problem, and then you create or you formulate a question for the problem, or to address the problem, and then you must research that issue, and then create a study, or put together a study, a method of study in order to answer the question or to address the question. And my question was, how would a series of workshops on the topic of domestic abuse in Christian homes, would it impact those who attended these workshops? How might it impact them? Would it increase their awareness? And so, when it was time for me to select a topic, I knew that was my topic because I am a first and secondary survivor of domestic abuse, or what we'll call intimate partner violence.
Yes.
Growing up as a child, there was abuse in my home. And as a child, it has significant impact on your development. Because as a child, you see and you hear things, or you become aware of things that are happening, and yet you can't tell anyone, because in the Black community, we're taught whatever happens in the home stays in the home.
Right.
So now you're putting a muzzle on a child, whereas the child is not allowed to say anything to anyone about what is taking place. And so a couple of things happen in the life of a child. One, the child is taught to lie. So the child is taught to not tell the truth, because they can't be honest about what's going on in their life and what's going on in their home. Secondly, as that child becomes an adult, they take on these personalities where they become people pleasers, because they don't want to upset anyone. They want to overachieve. And so I've had moments in my life, and my family can attest to it, where I always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to do my best, because you don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to upset anyone. And so you overachieve so that no one would look at you in pity, or no one would see the cracks or chinks in your armor. You also develop various types of defense mechanisms. For me as a child, I would bite my nails. I wet the bed. I also was rather violent as a child, and that personality continued into my adulthood. So when I'm angry about something, my first response is violence. I have to count. I have to calm myself. I have to hold myself back, because my first inclination is to lash out, to break something, to hit something. As a child, I got into fights all the time. I wrote in the dissertation a memory, and it's amazing when you're writing something of such significance and you have experience with it. When you're writing it, there are certain memories that have been buried, that rise to the surface. And I remember I couldn't have been in maybe the second or the third grade. It had to be the second grade or third grade. And I remember a little boy taking construction paper off my desk, and without any remorse, I walked over to his desk, took back my construction paper, but not before I slapped him across the face, and walked back to my desk without any remorse.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
I felt nothing.
Wow.
I felt nothing. And that was just one incident of me fighting as a child. I would fight all the time. The last time I put my hands on someone, it was a family member, and I bruised her badly. It was as if I just blacked out. And so for a person who's experienced abuse or witnessed abuse or been around abuse, you have so much tension inside of you that when you become angry, it's almost as if you become another person. And all of the anger that was ever in you comes out in that moment.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
All of the anger that's been buried. And so I wanted to address this issue because I knew my family was not the first, and I knew we were not the last.
Yes.
Right.
Because as you grow and you get into other relationships, I've experienced firsthand abuse, but because it didn't look like the abuse that was in my home, I didn't think it was abuse.
Right.
But abuse takes on many faces.
Yes,
It's emotional. It is psychological. It is financial. It is. It is technological. It is coercion. And so we often look for the one indicator. We look for the violence.
Right.
And if the violence is not present, then we automatically think that there is no abuse there. But I found myself in relationships that were emotionally damaging to me.
Okay.
They were psychologically damaging to me. And so I knew that I was not the first, and I knew I was not the last. And I was determined to pull the covers off of this monster. The statistic is, and you all know it because you sat in the courses, and I appreciate that, especially with you all working so closely with the married couples ministry at the church, because it is an issue that needs to be a part of our Christian education programming in all of our churches.
Right. Yeah. And you and I talked about that.
Yeah. In every church, it needs to be a component of our Christian education coursework, from the middle school children all the way through our married couples and our engaged couples ministry, our singles ministry, you name it. But as I was saying, the statistic is that 1 in 3 persons, be it male or female, 1 in 3 persons have experienced domestic abuse at some level, at some point in their lives. That's the secular statistic. Well, in Christendom, the statistic is 1 in 4. So that means if you have 400 members of your congregation, 100 of them have experienced some form of domestic abuse at some point in their lives.
Yes.
That's not even counting the children, the little boys and the little girls. But 1 in 4 adults have experienced domestic abuse. And my argument is this: if that were cancer, if out of 400 people in your congregation, 100 of them have experienced cancer, have battled cancer, or are living with cancer, we would have all kinds of health programs. We would have experts come in and talk to our congregations. We would have doctors come in. We would set up rides to get you to chemo. We would come to your house and clean. If there were 100 people in our congregation that we knew had experienced cancer at some level, we would go out of our way to become champions in the battle against cancer. Well, the statistic for abuse is 1 in 4. And so we sat quietly while we're dancing and shouting on a Sunday morning. You've got 800 people in your congregation, 200 of them have experienced abuse at some level, at some point in their lifetime. And it's high time that the church take the muzzle off of the pain and address the reality of what's going on. Otherwise, the message that we're sending is this: because, the church wants to keep families together.
Right.
Yes.
But we don't want to talk about things that might cause families to need to separate, or things that are tearing our families apart. And so what we're saying to the victim is, be quiet, and we'll rather have your funeral than see you divorced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what we're doing is we're killing our congregation silently.
Right.
We want them to die silently.
Right. And like you said earlier, that especially, I can't speak for the white community. I can't speak for them. I'm not one of them. But for sure, our community has a real big problem with keeping our mouth shut.
Yes.
When stuff wrong is going on around us. Yeah.
Which is why abuse, be it sexual, emotional, physical, because this one thing that's true, Damon. Abuse never occupies a space in only one dimension. By that I mean it travels in pairs, or it travels in groups. By that I mean you never have physical abuse that is not coupled with emotional or mental abuse. You'll never have sexual abuse that is without physical or mental abuse. It always travels in packs. It travels in groups. And within the African American community, we don't want to go to counseling.
No.
We don't want to suggest therapy. Right. And truth be told, y'all, I had not even wanted to deal with the issue until I got into this program. And the first thing that they had the nerve to want us to do is write our spiritual autobiography.
Well,
I thought that I would be able to just write this dissertation and do the research, and maybe put in a couple little lines about April and I'd be done. No, they want a chapter. A chapter about your spiritual autobiography. And so it's you writing about those experiences or those milestones in your life where you've known yourself to be changed, transformed, or altered, and how the thing that you're researching has impacted you in those moments.
Oh my goodness.
And so y'all, let me tell you, the first week of class, the first assignment was the spiritual autobiography, and they just wanted you to write a 3-page spiritual autobiography, which later turned into a chapter. But when I tell you I cried, I was writing and crying and typing and crying because there are memories, there are traumas that we lock away because we are taught, get on with it. I mean, come on, it's tough enough being Black.
Right.
It's tough enough being a Black woman. You mean to tell me I got to be a Black woman and I have to remember those things that have wounded me or those moments that broke me from my childhood?
Yes.
Then I've got to talk about, I've been married and divorced and then married and then divorced. And I got to talk about my stuff. It was, by the time I finished with it, I found it to be extremely therapeutic. And I would recommend to anyone, you don't have to be in a program anywhere, or you don't have to write a dissertation to write your spiritual autobiography. From your first memory.
Yes.
Go back to your first memory as a human being in this world and write about those moments that impacted you in the most profound ways, and then write about the stuff that wounded you, the things that blessed you, the things that made you most happy. I could remember my first memory is being small enough to fit across my grandmother's lap.
All right.
I remember being that small.
Wow.
And so we can't just say that children don't remember things. Right. Children remember because they're little sponges. And so the idea of abuse in the Christian home is, first, take the muzzle off and let's stop being in denial, because the fact is that it does exist. It does exist. And so now that we know that it exists, let's have a conversation, which is why I call them dangerously brave conversations. Right. Because you have to be willing to step on the edge of wounding some people's egos.
Yes.
In order to get your own deliverance.
Right.
I cannot lie and say that this has not driven a wedge between myself and some familial relationships, because it has. Yes. But I suffer from nightmares into my 30s, visions and memories that would pop up in my mind while I was asleep. They were in my subconscious. Right. And so my speaking out, my writing about it, my conducting workshops and talking to other women about their traumas, I was able to relieve myself from the nightmares by speaking them out and giving them to God completely.
Right. There you go.
Because the church has to move beyond, I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you is not going to help someone who is living with in an abusive relationship.
Right. Right. Because you can't just make it go. We can't just pray it away.
You cannot pray it away.
Yeah.
And that goes for the victim and the perpetrator.
Right.
The abuser. The church also needs to have safe spaces for those who know that they have these tendencies.
Right.
Because they can be men and women.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There are women who are also very abusive, and there need to be safe spaces for on both sides. And the church has a responsibility to do that if we be the church.
Right. Right. And so with that, I it's kind of related to, and so what I wanted to ask you was, have you found that when God places something on your heart, because that's the only way this could have happened, is that he placed this on your heart years ago, and you follow what he places on your heart, you find that it can put you in a position where you become, if you will, an expert in something. You don't have all the answers, but you know enough about it to help people?
I think that I steer away from the word expert.
Right.
Because as long as you are a living, breathing human being, you are collecting information and you're collecting data. I can only be an expert when it comes to the things I know about April.
Okay.
Because that's the only thing I know up close and personal.
Okay.
And so I can speak at length about myself and how I connect to this subject, and how I found many of the writers who I researched. I found that many of them were speaking directly to me, and we've had some of the same experiences, but I'm not an expert with their experience. I'm an expert when it comes to my experience.
Okay. Okay.
What I believe is that God can use each one of us and each one of our life experiences to be a blessing to someone else. I don't believe that each person is supposed to keep their mouths closed when it comes to things that have thrown us off course or things that may have wounded us. You have a wound for a reason.
Yes.
It is for you to tell your war story.
Yeah.
Because your story then gives courage to someone else to tell their story. Right. So the scripture encourages us that the strong should bear the infirmities of the weak. Right. Well, how do the weak know that we're strong if we don't share what we've been through and what we've encountered?
Right. That's right.
Which takes us back to what we were talking about in the beginning, the song that I love so much, Told Jesus Change My Name. That song means so much to me because I am familiar with the lyrics being true to my existence. And so there have been members of various congregations who've heard me sing that song, and they'll say, I love when you sing that song because you're singing to me. Well, I can only sing to you because I'm singing to me. Right. I'm actually singing to me. Right. I would say this, Damon and Tynia, it takes a lot of courage.
It does.
To be vulnerable and to be transparent, because we are so comfortable with the illusion of perfection. Yes. We're so comfortable with things looking nice and neat, and life is not nice and neat.
Yes, we're all told.
Life at times is messy. It is muddy. It is painful. It's bloody. Yeah. It's filled with tears. And we have to be comfortable with our own yesterdays. Yes. Because what the enemy will do is and it happens with abuse, and the enemy will take what you've been through and try to shame you with it. Try to shame you with it. And then there's a sense of guilt, and then there's shame. And where there's guilt and there's shame, there can't be freedom and deliverance. Right. They don't coexist.
No.
They can't.
Without a doubt. Yeah. So
You know, when I watched you speaking to Muriel, you and Dr. Martin,
Yes.
It took me back to my memories and my scars,
Yes.
and that's when I felt like, really, I haven't gotten over this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still following me because I grew up in an abusive home. My mother was married 6 times. So, you know, and like you said, with the alcohol abuse and the
Yes.
physical violence and I mean, to the point where gunshot,
Yes. Yes.
you know what I'm saying? And it was like, I didn't even want to get married
Yes.
to that degree. And I would just want to say, when you opened up yourself to, with this issue, how did your parents feel about it?
Well, I had some very uncomfortable conversations with both my parents, my father especially, and what he was not comfortable with initially with what I was choosing to talk about and choosing to discuss.
I'm sure.
Neither was my mother. My mother's words to me were to do whatever God told me to do. With my father, I actually interviewed my father.
Okay.
And so our conversation was very clinical initially, because I had questions about his upbringing, about what he learned, what he saw, what he experienced. And what I found was, which led me to in my conclusion, challenge the church, is that those who abuse have been abused.
Yes. Yes.
In some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I found myself having extended compassion towards my father, because there were a lot of things in his childhood that he could not control.
Right.
He could not control when he was allowed to go to school. He was forced to go pick cotton and gather up pecans and go work in the fields when he should have been in school. When he should have been given the opportunity to get an education.
Yes.
And so when a child is not permitted to be a child, when a child is robbed of their freedom of childhood, and they're not allowed to be able to control some things, they then become adults who then want to control everything.
Right.
By any means necessary.
Yeah.
And one thing that my father has taught me is that it matters little how you start, it matters how you finish.
Yes.
Because my dad, although our relationship is still a work in progress, we don't have the girl dad relationship that we once had. When I was a little girl, my dad was like a hero to me, even though there was violence in our home. My dad and I sang together all the time.
Right.
That's something we had in common, because my mom can't sing, bless her soul. But my mom can't sing, but my dad and I would sing together all the time. My dad is very skilled at taking things apart and putting them back together. I believe that if my father would have been given the opportunity, he would have been a master engineer.
Okay.
Because he works well at solving problems, taking things apart and putting them back together, which is where I believe I get a lot of my scientific curiosity.
Sure.
So we have those things in common. But the disconnect for us, the disconnect came when I couldn't see past what I deemed to be the monster. And so I couldn't love that part of him. After interviewing him, my heart was filled with compassion, because I think the church does a horrible job.
Yes.
Our families do a horrible job at addressing behaviors that we know are unhealthy.
Yes.
And when we see behaviors that are unhealthy, we need to speak out. We need to encourage our family members and our loved ones, our fellow parishioners, to get help. Men need to talk to men about how to deal with their anger, because in the African American community, Black men are only allowed to be either happy or mad as hell.
Right.
There is no in between for the Black man.
Right. Right.
He's taught to be in control. He's taught to be the head, and he's not taught how to be compassionate.
Right.
And so our men need to do a better job of reaching out to their fellow brothers. The church needs to do a better job of being compassionate toward those who are displaying behaviors that are damaging, not just to those that the behaviors are imposed upon, but to the person themselves.
Right.
Because it takes that person a long time. For my mom, I ask her questions like, "Why did you stay?
Yeah.
Why would you stay?" My mom came from a background where when you get married, you stay married.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Southern mentality.
Yes.
When you get married, you stay married. It's for better or for worse. And many women don't realize the damage that you're imposing upon the children when you decide to stay.
Yes.
You would do your children a better service by leaving and finding a place of safety for you and your child.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And it's good that you embarked on this journey, because like a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned, somebody needs to say it. Somebody needs to get the conversation going, because otherwise we'll do what we've always done it. And to our listeners out there, it ain't just the Black church.
It's not. It's
church, period.
It's church, period.
Yeah.
And it's not just Christian.
Right.
It's not just Christian. There are many of our Muslim sisters, especially, who undergo horrendous types of abuse at the hands of the men in their family.
Yes.
Think about it. When was the last time you saw an unwed Muslim female?
Right.
It's not tolerated.
Kick out the family. Yeah, they kick out the family.
Our Muslim sisters, our sisters in the Jewish community, in the conversation that I was having that Tynia listened in on the other day, was with women from around the globe, and Muriel is a native of Africa. She lives in Australia. And so her podcast is broadcast in maybe 6 different time zones. And the conversation we were having was about the pandemic of what in my research is called gendercide. There's a book that's called The Bible and Gendercide. That there is an assault on women and girls across the globe.
Yes.
Across the globe, where you are in danger just by being born female, just by being born a girl.
Yes.
You're not seen as being worth much. And here in the Americas, women are reduced to their bra size and their hip size. Women are subject to men. If Hillary Clinton were born Hilliard, she would have been president. Easily. And the sad part is that women tend to be most hard on other women. And so it's not just the men folk who look at us and see us as being less than. There are women who are convinced that women should not hold places of high authority, or that women are held to different standards. I deal with it in ministry, where there are women who don't feel as though women should hold high positions in ministry, and they hold you to a standard that no one can reach.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
They hold you to standards that no one can reach. And so there is this global gendercide that is happening against women and girls around the globe, where women and girls are abused, they are murdered, they are kidnapped, they are victims of sex trafficking, and no one's marching in the streets.
No.
About all the girls who are just disappearing off the block. They're not marching in the streets about all of the women who are being battered right now. There are more women dying at the hands of someone who said they love them than women who die of cancer.
Wow.
It is just
Wow.
devastating.
And we're not having the conversation. And so my argument is, are we the church? Are we the church?
Right. That's right.
Because the church's job is to be a place of healing and wholeness for those who are wounded, who are battered, those who are broken.
Yeah.
And if that be the case, we have churches that have all kinds of ministries, 30-something ministries, 50 ministries. How many of them are dedicated to abuse and the victimization of men and women to give them a safe place?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I remember when I was in my minister's training class when you were teaching us and you had us read a book, The Dark Side of Leadership.
Yes.
Well, you and for those who don't know, it talks about the things that make us great are often the things that cause our downfall. And you know, in listening to you, if we don't figure out a way to have this discussion and then change, because this discussion is by itself is not enough.
Yeah.
Correct.
We got to have to evoke some change. Then we're going to destroy ourselves.
Correct.
As a church, as a race.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
I propose that one, places of worship become more intentional.
Yes.
About providing advocacy for those who are experiencing abuse, whether that's formulating a ministry or connecting your ministry with an outside entity or an organization that provides support and refuge.
Yes.
So that when people come forward, you can direct them to a place of safety. You can direct them to a place of counseling for both the victim and the perpetrator. Secondly, again, I admonish religious leaders to add that to your educational programming.
Yeah.
It needs to be a part of your programming because it starts at early ages with little boys slapping little girls on playgrounds. A lot of our children who are displaying behavioral issues and behavioral problems, all of it's not cognitive, all of it's not due to chemical imbalance. Yeah, chemical imbalance. Some of it has to do with exposure.
Yes.
And so children who tend to be violent have been taught to be violent.
Right.
Or they've witnessed violence, or they've experienced violence. And there are statistics that even suggest that in the womb, if the mother is being abused and the baby is in the womb, there is trauma that is happening to that baby in the womb.
Yes.
I believe it.
And I believe it.
Because the baby still hears, that baby still feels in the womb.
Yes.
And so we have to begin teaching how to value one another. And my, you all have been in the class. So my thing is, let's go back to Genesis. Let's go back to the creation narrative. And let's talk about the fact that man and woman were created in God's image and God's likeness. And God gave us dominion over everything that God created except one another. So if we can go back to that place and teach it properly, understanding that each one, man and woman, were given gifts and talents that need to be respected by both. That both men and women need to respect and respect with dignity.
Yes.
The differences, the value, the intuition, the knowledge, the wisdom, the gifts and talents that both parties bring to the table, and see one another as God's creation. Because if I can see you as God's creation, then I can't put my hands on you.
Right. That's right. That's right. Because
you are created by the same God who created me. So I can't put my hands on you, and you can't put your hands on me. Let's stop saying, well, I'm violent because this person did this, or I'm violent because this person did that. Each person is responsible for their own behavior. You're responsible for your own response in the midst of a thing. And if you find that that violence is your first response, then you need to back up and take a good look at yourself.
Right, exactly.
Because that other person is not responsible for how you're responding. Right. That's a self job. That's an internal job. That's between you, God, and the Holy Spirit. That means you need to ask God to work on you. And that's another thing. We can't leave out the work of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
because it takes the Holy Spirit to do some transforming in our lives. Once we stop denying, once we acknowledge it, once we get some knowledge, okay, now Holy Spirit, show me where I can change, and help me to accept the truth about me.
Right.
It took me a lot, y'all, to accept the truth about me, because, you know, I had to accept the fact that in both of my marriages, people who had secrets were drawn to me, because with me, their secrets were safe.
All right.
Because I had secrets.
Right. Right.
And so it's only at a place where I am willing to live my authentic self, and be my authentic self, and not hide behind some facade. It's only at that point where I can demand that someone come to me whole, because I'm whole.
Right. Right.
When we're broken and we haven't asked God to work on our areas of brokenness, yeah, people will come to you broken, because with you, their brokenness has found a home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny you said
It's
that.
too deep for me. That's why he let us still wear masks now. We still so broke.
Look, we have to get to a place. We have to get to a place where we got to look at the ugliness about ourselves, because I had, you know, and I went to counseling after, you know, I was divorced the second time, and I went to counseling, and the first thing that the counselor said to me was, what did these two individuals have in common with you? And at first I was offended, like, girl, they had nothing in common with me. I don't have nothing in common with them.
Right.
But the truth be told, they had secrets that found a home with me, because I was not willing to admit those areas of brokenness. Look, I'm writing the dissertation, and all of a sudden, I knew it was in me, but all of a sudden the memory of being a victim of date rape while in college came back to me. A secret that I had buried and forgotten all about. I refused to acknowledge it.
Right.
I told no one.
Yeah.
I told no one.
Right, but it didn't go away. It was still there.
It was still there, and it's not until we take a look at, like Damon was talking about, the dark side of leadership. When you start that book changed me.
Yes.
Years ago, when I started reading that book, when you take a look at your dark side and acknowledge your dark side, so it won't keep creeping up on you. That not only then gives you a deeper relationship with God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but now the enemy can't hold that stuff against you.
Right, and that's the key.
Yeah,
that's the key.
Yeah.
It's like I was looking at somebody who was talking about the movie 8 Mile, when they had the real rap battle, and you know they diss each other, and at the end, Eminem got up there and dissed himself.
He dissed himself, and he said, "Now tell them what you know about.
Tell them what they don't know.
Tell them what they don't know about me."
He ain't got no ammunition.
You have no ammunition.
No.
So you disarm the enemy by taking inventory of all the things that have helped to create you to be the individual that you are, because it all works for your good.
Yes, it does.
God creates a beautiful masterpiece out of these fragments. It's almost like a patchwork quilt. It's just pieces, but when God is working on it, it becomes a beautiful masterpiece.
Right. And you know, it's funny how we love free will so much until we get caught doing something wrong, and then it's somebody else's fault.
Then it's someone else's fault. Someone else's fault.
Yeah, someone else's fault.
When you should take responsibility for your own stuff.
You did it. Go ahead on up to it. You did it. You was big and bad when you did it, and I accept it.
Own it.
Only way you can fix it.
Right.
Okay. Whew. I got a question for you.
Okay.
I asked everybody this question, and with you, I'm halfway scared to ask the question.
Okay.
Well, the title of the podcast is "Things My Mother Never Told Me," and so I ask everybody: is there something that you discovered later in life, and with you, I already know one thing that impacted your life in some kind of major way that your mother never told you about, and you wish you had?
Yeah. My mother is from a deeply Christian family. that believes in wearing pearls and going to church, and you don't talk about becoming a woman.
Okay.
So my mother's instructions to me about becoming a woman was filled with a bunch of don'ts and you better not.
Yeah.
She didn't talk to me about relationships. She didn't talk to me, and maybe she didn't know how.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't know how, but she never talked to me about relationships. She never told me that you don't have to say yes to the first person who asks you to marry them. She never told me that I could tell her anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid to fess up to some of my mistakes in life.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk to my mother about my sojourn into womanhood. I found refuge, and I found an ear in having godmothers here and there, and some of my college professors and things of that nature, who gave me ear and would listen to me and give me advice, and I'll even say in Pastor Jay, I found a place where I could talk about being a woman, because my mother never told me.
Yeah.
We never had those conversations.
Right.
And maybe she didn't know because nobody told her.
Yeah.
Right.
All you did in Mississippi was you went to school and you went to church. And my mother went from living with her parents to living with, I believe it was her great aunt, and from her great aunt to college, and from college to being a wife. So I don't know who she talked to about being a woman.
Right.
And she didn't talk to me about being a woman. It was trial and error. It was literally trial and error, blood, sweat, tears, mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake.
Yeah.
And I had to learn over time to then determine the type of woman I want to be.
Yeah.
Based on my experience, my mistakes, and my mess ups.
Right.
Ooh, you sound like me.
Trial by error.
Trial, and I learned by trial and error how to become a woman. It was those things that helped define for me the type of woman I want to be. It even helped me to define the type of relationship, because I believe the Lord is sending a husband, because I'm wife material. I believe the Lord is sending a husband. Amen.
That's right. That's right. Amen.
But I know the type of woman I am, and the type of woman I want to be, and I know the type of relationship I desire the Lord to send my way. But I learned that through trial and error of just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
Wow.
And and the reason why I asked that question is because when I came up with the title for this podcast, it occurred to me, and I'll tell you my little brief story. I've told them before. The last time I went to my mother's grave was the day we buried her. And this year, 35 years later, July 3rd, her birthday, we went out there. And so it was like July 4th that I came up with the title for the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I realized in 35 years, so much has changed in this world that my mother, there's a lot of stuff she never had a chance to tell me because she didn't know.
Right.
And like you just said, or didn't know how.
I didn't know how.
And so, so I don't, so people know, I don't ask the question because I'm trying to put mothers on the spot.
Yeah, because you just put me on there. Because I know my children are listening, and they was like, yeah, my mother never told me that.
But it's just a matter but it's a matter
I think there's some conversations that parents are fearful of having with their children because they don't know how, or they don't want their children to see them in certain lights.
Right.
And
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong. And so you don't want them to see you in certain lights, but if they see you in that light, then that'll keep them from bumping into things in the dark.
I know. But
if they're able to see you in that light, you know, that stops them from. And I have not given birth to a child, but my younger cousin Toriana Jones is like my daughter.
Right.
I've been in her life since she was 2 years old. And there are some conversations I'll have in the car with Tori. And she's like, Mama, no, stop. And I said, girl, look, I did it, so you won't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Jesus.
She's like, Mama, don't. Mama, stop. Don't.
Right. But to the parents out there, we have to do that because the wake-up call I got was one day Jason told me we was going on about something he had done. He was a little ashamed of something he had done wrong. And he said, well, you don't make mistakes. And I'm like, huh?
Oh, wow.
And he said, you don't. And I said, what did you talk about? I make tons of mistakes. The one we talking about with you now, I made that same mistake. But the problem is, like you were just saying, we put ourselves in a light to them that we're perfect.
Correct.
Yeah.
That we're perfect. And so now they're afraid of our dirt.
Correct.
if you will. Now, I'm going to say this, and so we're going to say this so they hear it out. Some folks out here on this line want you to sing a line from that song.
Who said that? You listening to him?
No, Brandon. Look, this is why
y'all out there in radio land better quit it.
A couple people asked if Reverend A could sing a line of the song y'all were talking about in the beginning before you close out.
Y'all not right.
They sure aren't right.
You know they not right.
Y'all not right. I'll do it. I'll do it for the people.
There you go. So I still get my wish.
I think you sent something out there so that people will say something.
Well, by saying it. But let me say this. I'm gonna tell you, I believe with all my heart that God put that on my heart to have you do that. Because I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning and I could not go back to sleep. And all I did was think about this podcast from 3 o'clock till I got out to bed at 6:30.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I'll do it. Is there a format for closing, or should I just
go ahead and sing it? Then we'll run on out of here.
Okay.
But let me say this, and then you can sing us out.
Okay.
We want to thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Yes,
it was awesome, and we could go for another 2 or 3 hours on this.
And you didn't open up a wound for me too,
right,
so I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna work on that.
Go write your autobiography. Go write your spiritual autobiography.
Right, y'all check out on Reverend A's page, Facebook page. She'll have information about the seminar she's sitting in on next week. We'll be back next week. I still don't know who I'm bringing on. I got a couple young folks in mind, but it's been wonderful. It's been enlightening.
Thank you. I want to let the people know that I'll be taking pre-orders toward the end of August and into September for the release of the book, Behind the Veil, Domestic Abuse in Christian Homes. And the release will happen in the month of October, which is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
All right. Wonderful.
So it's in your hands now, or should I say in your voice?
Oh my goodness. I told Jesus, be all right, change my name.
All right.
Told Jesus,
yes,
be all right, change my name. I told Jesus,
yes,
be all right, be all right. Be all right. I told Jesus, be all right. Change my name.
All right. Wonderful.
All right.
Wonderful. Oh, you blessed our souls with that one.
Thank y'all so much.
Love that voice.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to write that spiritual biography.
And read it to your children.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
They love hearing it. Matter of fact, they probably listening right now.
Yes. One day, Tori sat down with my dissertation, and she just sat there and read. Mm-hmm. So yes, read it to your children or give them a copy so that they'll know all the things that assisted in creating the beautiful woman that you are.
There you go.
All righty.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared.
See, you got homework and everything.
I know. See that? I ain't bringing you back.
The guest giving our homework.
I know. But thank you so much for everything. We appreciate you so much.
All right, she done froze up.
Okay.
Take care.
That was so good. We out.
Bye.
They might have froze.
Oh, she back. All right, you said we bye now. You froze up on us. Take care now.
Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, love you.
Bye.
So much. Love you too.
Bye-bye. Oh, that was so good.
Clappity clap.